being so patient on this video. Thank you, participants. So sit back, enjoy the session, and do drop in your questions in the chat box. We will pick them up from there, and we will answer those queries maybe during the session or maybe at the end of the session, as Kevin might want to take it up. So over to you, Kevin. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Do remain seated.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Ashish, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Kevin.
Thank you very much. Welcome, everybody, to this wonderful session on TGIF, the power of leadership coaching. And I also take this opportunity to wish each one of you and your families a wonderful and healthy new year. So thank you so much for joining us today. Before we start, and I'm sure this topic is one that is very, very interesting, and I think holds a lot of importance, especially now as we're all preparing ourselves and the people and the workforce for the new normal. I think the elements around effective coaching and effective leadership, I think is something that is very, very important. So I've had the pleasure of knowing Aneeta both professionally and personally. And so Aneeta is currently the managing director for Open Spaces Consulting. And with all her 35 plus years of experience, out of which over 15 years of coaching, as a certified coach, as a certified consultant, she has helped a lot many CEOs, CXOs find the path, if I may say, to opening themselves and leading organizations effectively. She's worked a lot with women who are part of the management board, helping them explore themselves both personally and professionally. Um, an individual who is full of life, an individual is very passionate about, if I could say, Aneeta, picnics and travel, and of course, a lot of photography. I know a lot of your photography is, you've also had put up those wonderful, photographs that you have clicked. Also, I think I'm sure a lot of wisdom has come up sitting on an iceberg, if I remember one of your trips. So a person full of life, person who's always loved the simple things, love to be bring a lot of clarity in everything that she does, and a person who has been able to apply a lot of principles to herself when it comes to transforming herself, when it comes to overcoming obstacles. And I think she draws a lot of strength from those, and that's how she's been able to help a lot many people transform themselves and drive organizations in things to come. So thank you so much, Aneeta, for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to have you with us. Thank you so much for doing this session. Before we start, Aneeta, I thought, coaching, I mean, it's a word that all of us on the call and here are very familiar. So, what is coaching and coaching, mentoring, feedback as HR guys on this call? So, what's the difference and what's coaching all about?
Oh, that's a wonderful question, Kevin. And we begin a question straight on, and it's like hitting the ground running. But I really liked what you just said a little while earlier, that I apply a lot of what I learned to myself. I have a little philosophy which says we teach best that which we ourselves need to learn. And I feel destiny has a way to bring you to a profession and to a career and to life that will bring you the lessons that you most need to learn. So I came into the world of psychology purely by an act of destiny and fate. It was not by intention. It was not an active choice making of mine. And I found myself as a graduate student in psychology in Lady Shri Ram College in Delhi. And since then, my life has always revolved around working with myself as well as working with people. And it's not as if the two are separate. When I coach somebody, I also learn a lot myself. So So I've explored the world of human behavior in many contexts. Research with Professor Vidhu Mohan, who's my PhD guide, and she's here on the call with me, through writing, through teaching, through counseling, through group therapy. I've done a lot of group work with Sumedha's Academy for Human Context. I would take my students for personal growth labs. And then finally, a few years ago, the penny dropped. And I think everything that I did had to bring me to the point where I did believe that the real open spaces that you can find are between two people, where you can withhold your judgment and where you can purely be who you are. When you're in a group therapy kind of session, like a personal growth lab, or you'll find that group norms get set in, pecking orders get set in, someone's a scapegoat and someone's a top dog, and all that stuff always happens in a group setting. And for me, that was very, very dysfunctional. It didn't work to help a person really explore himself with freedom. Because the work that we do is about what can be done in a dyadic context. I must also say that a lot of my work has its roots in counseling and in the world of psychology. And so there are many coaches you will find who don't have that background. They come purely as coaches and they bring a very different perspective as well. So, but I bring with me the perspective of having worked with people in many settings. I believe the world of counseling is very different from the world of coaching. But counseling is when people are turbulent emotionally and they need help and assistance. Sometimes they're on the edge of a cliff, and you have to do what it takes to bring them back, and that requires therapy. At that time, you cannot be a coach and ask them, what is it you'd like to be? you know so so that's why I believe that counseling approach helps me settle people's emotional turbulences and provide them the emotional support and empathy and compassion that they need, and coaching helps to find solutions. So it's a combination of the two that I bring on the table. But to answer your question, I want to just tell you I'm mentally prepared, because everybody I meet has this question: what is coaching? What is mentoring? What is so? If you permit me, I will just share a little slide, because I made a little diagram on that one
Wow.
just yesterday, and. And it's very clear to me that uh, counseling, coaching, mentoring are all very different things. I've been a trainer and a teacher. And as a trainer and teacher, I ask direct questions. You've got an exam paper at the end of the day, and you've got an assessment test at the end of the day. How much was the effectiveness of the training? A trainer provides information, data, numbers, statistics, arguments, models, theories, concepts, seek specific answers and says, okay, if you were to do input, process, output, if you input this, what would be the output? So there are specific answers, often highly structured. I don't know of any training program which is not highly structured. In fact, they structure their time through an instruction design matrix. I am a trainer myself, and I still do small parts of training. I always begin with an instruction design matrix, and I always say, okay, what's the structure that we are going to put in? And it's always based on past learning, somebody else's research done in some other context. Light bulbs that worked for someone else, maybe not for you.
Right.
As a mentor, mentor is a person who's a specialist in your field,
Okay.
whatever your field may be. You would be in pharmacy field, you could be a chief marketing officer in a pharmaceutical organization, maybe a multinational. So a mentor would be somebody who's senior to you, who has been in that position before you, and who knows a lot about the way the multinational pharma companies operate. And that mentor is a person who would be able to give you specific guidance, and he would be able to answer all your questions that you might have. So as a chief marketing officer for pharmaceutical firm might have a great guru who will give him all the answers. You provide him all the information, make all the connections for him. And again, it's very structured and it's based on past experience. So there's a lot of known stuff you're dealing with. A coach, and that's what we are talking about, and a leadership coach particularly, will always ask questions, open-ended, questions that might shake you from your comfort zone, questions that might challenge your thinking, questions that will take you deeper inside, questions that will raise your level of thinking, questions that maybe you don't know the answers to, maybe you know the answers to, but it'll force you to look at answering those questions so that you learn something, you get a new insight about yourself. Coach will enable that particular self-discovery, which a mentor and a trainer may do, but may not be in a very intense manner. The purpose of coaching is to enable self-awareness and self-discovery. A coach also puts something in your face that helps you dispel all your limiting beliefs about yourself and all your foolish notions, false feelings, ego hassles, futile battles that you may be fighting all the time, and and brings you to reality and makes you see the reality in a focused manner, which works for you. Coach can be applied in any situation. I believe nowadays 20 something year olds are becoming coaches. And I do believe that a 20 something year old can easily coach somebody who's more senior in an organization, because he's able to hold the coach position, which is, much neutral. So it's age is no barrier, sex is no barrier, industry sector is no barrier, hierarchical levels is no barrier. So anyone can coach anyone, and that's what coaching is, the beauty of coaching. And the last thing is the most important. Coaching is always future focused. We take a point in the future and we visualize that point, we visualize that solution, and we anchor that deeply and we work towards getting there. It's not about looking back. So when I was, watching a serial on the life and times of Gautam Buddha, and Gautam Buddha said very clearly, he says, forget the past. You've been a criminal in the past, you have done huge crimes, or you've done huge good. Forget the past. It's only today that matters. It's only now that matters. And what vision you carry here on for the rest of your life that matters. So it's only future focused. We don't look at the past. We may once in a while occasionally go into the past to pull out some insight that might have worked for me and will continue to work for me, but we generally don't look at the past. I am trained in coaching by the Ericsson Coaching International, which is a Canadian organization. And I've achieved, you must have heard of the International Coach Federation. So they have 3 levels of coach accreditation and credentialing. And I do believe that it's important to have coach training. After having done a doctoral in psychology, having taught so many years, having done so many researches, refereed publications, I did go back to the basics. How do I build rapport with my coachee? When I went for the Art and Science of Coaching program of the Ericsson Coach International. The reason why coach training is important, because it's absolutely imperative to understand the ethics and the values and the competencies associated with coaching. Nobody is born with that. Nobody is born with those ethics. You have to understand, you have to apply your mind, and you have to cognitively engage with the ethical question. And you may have a leadership coach who's not trained, and what happens in a coaching session is one-to-one, and then the ethics is that what happens in a coaching session stays in a coaching session. And if a person is not trained or certified or is tuned into the ethics of coaching, we really don't have a clue as to what's going on in that session. There could be a whole lot of, the coach could be putting his meanings into the coachee, or, leading the coachee in the wrong way, in the wrong path. So coach training actually helps you understand and appreciate the ethics of holding a coach position, which is a neutral position, and not feeding our meanings and our learnings in life into the minds of another person. So there is a skill involved. There is definitely a skill involved in the coaching process, and there is a process also involved. And In Ericsson coaching, we talk of the coaching arrow, and I think that summarizes very nicely some of the skills that and the processes that go into coaching. So, for example, you begin with the rapport session. It's very easy to say, yeah, build a rapport, but the actual skills of building a rapport and generating trust and mirroring, reflecting, there are lots of methods that you can deploy, all these methods. And there's a certain assumption that we go with, that the client is okay and the client has the resources to resolve its problems himself, and all the other lovely principles that have been espoused by Milton Erickson. Then it's imperative, and again in ICF and in a coaching contract, it's imperative to have a contract of coaching, not just a document that you sign with the company that is paying your bill, but a psychological contract with the coachee, that I would agree to coach with you and you would agree to be coached. That's important part of the process, because unless we have a contract, we don't have an end point. If we would have a lovely conversation, we can sing and dance in the rain and enjoy ourselves, and everybody feels good at the end of it, but there has to be some outcome, and that is what the contract sets out, and an outcome frame exemplifies that. We create experiences. It could be an exercise, it could be visualization, it could be an experiment. We create various kinds of experiences for the client. What they call client, we call coaches here in India, and we define certain steps that we are going to take towards that. And in the end, we try and appreciate the value of what we've received in this coaching session, and of course, celebrate at the end of it. So there's a certain skill and a process involved. So someone who's not a trained and a certified coach would not understand this process, would not understand the skills that are required in coaching, and a lot of unethical things would happen. So I made this tree of coaching based upon all my vast years of experiencing people and working with people. And when I put this together, I thought, in some way, the tree is a good metaphor for understanding a human being. There are lots of leaves the tree has, which are where, it receives and it gives, and it interfaces with the world outside, and it interacts with the world. There's a trunk of the tree which gives the tree stability and strength. And if the trunk is not strong, then the tree will not be strong either. And then, of course, there are roots in the tree, which give the tree nourishment and further strength and good anchoring in their lives. So every coachee, to me, every coachee, or what we call client, is a tree in a sense. Okay, the coachee has a context of which is outside them, which is all over here, where there are other people's ideas on how I should do my work. People keep telling me, you should do this, don't do this, do this, don't do this. Okay, fine, but that's your world. That's something outside me. It's not inside me. Then there are expectations. There are expectations of your role, of your job, there are targets that you have to meet, and they're all out there. We've got to achieve so many $1 billion turnover for the organization this year. There's a work environment. Some organizations, have going through whatever they're going through. Some are downsizing, some are upsizing, some are merging, some are, startups. And so every organization has their own work environment. There's competition, peer pressure. And so all these are stuff outside. All this is stuff that's outside the individual. And it drives human behavior. And I find that, and also advice from others, I find that very often organizations, very often CEOs and CXOs and people everywhere, they keep reacting to this world outside. We keep reacting to this world outside, and we keep using this world outside to define who we are. So I'm a racehorse because I'm going to meet this target, or I'm a competitor, so in a race, we keep defining ourselves by this world outside, and then we keep focusing on how do I change myself, how do I build this competency, How do I build my performance? How do I build my rewards? What rewards do I want? What is my leadership style also is a part. So there's a superficial layer of me that gets developed and gets kind of conditioned. It's like a Pavlov dog getting conditioned, where I start learning certain competencies on how do I manage the situation, how do I manipulate the world so that I get what I want, and what kind of performance I can deliver, what kind of skills. So as a teacher, as a trainer, even as a mentor, you will find a lot of people focus on these aspects. Let's build skills, let's build competencies, let's build knowledge. Let's train the person. And let's look at their leadership style. Let's tell them to delegate. If they don't delegate, they're not going to, achieve, create space for themselves. Okay, you tell them to delegate, but have you looked at how that is anchored deeply within? What is their relationship to power? What trust issues they have? How would they manage a conflict coming out of that delegation? So everything about your leadership style is deeply anchored in your trunk and in your roots as well. But the training programs don't address that. They give you skills and techniques and tools to help you cope better with the situation. In coaching, we get deeper, or we call it, we go higher, we go up what we call the neurological levels, it's defined by DILTs. We talk about the trunk is the social capital you build. We talk of networking, the power of networking. So people in your industry, in your work environment, coalitions you may create, groups you may be a part of, and groups you may lead, that is all your social capital. Now, of course, it's also social media is the social capital. Let's not deny the power of social media. Your presence in social media is a part of your social capital. You have 1 million followers, you have arrived. So social capital is everything, your network, all your social presence in society, in real world and in virtual world. The relationships you have, and these could be intense, deep relationships in your marriage, with your children, with your parents, with your boss. And so you can see how I'm going around. First is marriage, then children, then parents, then boss. So these are very important. And then I'm undergoing a program which is teaching me that this is a primary source of nourishment. We look at food as a source of nourishment, but relationships are what nourish us and energize us. The spiritual practice, I'm not talking of religion, maybe religion, if you're religious, that's wonderful, but it could be a belief in faith, in a particular faith, or it could be a certain philosophical bent of mind, or it could be a practice of introspection, it could be a practice of meditation, prayer, a practice of gratitude, a practice of forgiveness. It could be any kind of spiritual practice that strengthens your trunks. Exercise is what strengthens your system a great deal. I'm discovering more and more today. Even you'll find me, I'm standing at my desk. I've got a sit stand desk, and I spend at least 3-4 hours standing, because sitting is the next smoking. And I'm being physically active. So the physical activity is a very important part. You're active in the body, you're active in the mind. You're agile in the body, you're agile in the mind. And it's a physical health, your overall chronic illness. Now we find many CEOs and CXOs that I coach, I find that they're always on the go, they're always rushed for time, they're always under pressure for targets and for earnings and profitability. They're always in the red zone of stress. We call it the red zone of stress. And when you're chronically in the red zone, we call it chronic stress. You don't realize that you may be feeding off it. But that chronic stress impacts your health. And you get chronic diseases like hypertension, diabetes, uh, you know, even cancers and obesity. And we've got if you're looking at COVID as a pandemic, believe me, it's nothing compared to the diabetes pandemic. It's nothing compared to the obesity pandemic. It's nothing compared to the cancer pandemic. And so physical health is absolutely important, part of strengthening nourishing yourself and strengthening your body. Emotional intelligence, how I uh, live with my own emotions. I once knew a CHRO who said, "Arey, he's a very emotional guy, we're telling him not to be so emotional. And, emotions are not good. Emotions are very bad." And I said, "You're a CHRO. How can you say that? I mean, you can't have a dehumanized environment." I think emotions is what drives people. Emotions is what you can convert into a passion for doing what you want to do. So it took a long time for the CHRO to see the value of emotions at the workplace. And I simply talk of an example is that if Gandhiji was not angry with the British and he didn't convert and transform that anger into a positive action, India would not have seen freedom. So emotion is what gave India freedom. So emotional intelligence, how do I manage emotions? How do I take the reactivity out of the emotions? How do I transform emotions into something that I engage with passion and with joy and with happiness? um, Emotional intelligence, I can give another lecture someday only on emotional intelligence. And in coaching, we get to the roots. While we build the trunk in coaching, we get to the roots. So it could be an issue of delegation. We get to person's relationship to power. It could be an issue of, like, in an entrepreneurial situation, like if you have an entrepreneur, he's hired a professional manager as a CEO, and he still wants to hold the reins and control the, because it's his baby and he doesn't want to let go of it. And I always remember one CEO who told the entrepreneur and the promoter that, "Boss, I have an exit option. I'm a professional. I'm a person for hire. You don't have an exit option. You are here. You're fully bought into the story of this organization. So it's your baby." So defining that, so for an entrepreneur and a promoter, it's very difficult to let go, or it's very difficult to establish a relationship with a professional CEO. And I do believe that, relationship to power, trust, conflict, values, and beliefs, these are very important part of coaching that we would bring to such situations and work with them. So we work with self-awareness, which is a very important leadership quality, and it's a part of the tree of leadership. Knowing yourself is the first thing. Leader can't be constantly reacting to targets, expectations, and working with other people's ideas. A leader has to work with knowing what he wants and what is his vision, what is his purpose, how does he create a vision community with other people, what is his identity, what is the purpose of his existence, what is self-belief, his self-concept. So we work with, in coaching, we work with all of these. So there is sometimes a transactional coaching that gets set up where, we call it performance-based coaching. It has its place, no doubt. At all levels in management, there is some element of performance coaching where we operate over here. We say, okay, what are your vision and goals for the future? How do you get there? What are the action steps you need to take to get to your goals? Maybe you want to meet $100 million, or you want to be number one in your business, but we can coach your action steps, but that is a very transactional coaching. And true leadership coaching, true transformational coaching works at this level, works at this level, and action steps emerge at this level. And this is the side effect. So the work is at the roots, action steps are at the trunk, and the leaves are just the side effect of coaching. So I hope, Kevin, I hope this answers your first question and gives a little perspective on what coaching is. I'm going to stop sharing because I want to talk to you more and I want to know what's on your mind and have a conversation.
Yes, Anita, wonderful. I think you did answer the question. In fact, I love the slide on the tree. That was absolutely a wonderful way to have shown that. And clear cut stuff that hits us is that it's about insights, right? It's all about uh, self discovery. It's all about the whole, as you rightly pointed out, awareness. And awareness starts by first accepting. than knowing, and then kind of helping out yourself to put in action. One of the words that kind of resonated a lot was the sense of purpose. You talked about that. You talked about how there's that whole emotional and then the spiritual connect. Um, wow, I mean, a lot of us, and I can say, when we a lot of the HR guys and a lot of even for me, when you looked at coaching, etc. I remember as a child, all of us lend ourselves to a lot of coaching, right? I mean, when you play a sport, you play. I mean, the first thing say, the coach told us to do this, so this is the plan. But as we progress in life and then we kind of mature, somewhere we forget sometimes that it's important even then to be coached, and how important that is, especially in those one amazing part of our lives. We are peaking in some, when you look at careers, you say I'm peaking at this time. So, and is there a coach to really guide me in really opening myself out, coming out of comfort zones? And now, talking about that, I think, Anita, one of the things that came to my mind when we talk to and work with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of is that when you look at the captains of the organization, right? So they are the guys with the passion, the ideology, and they started it and built an organization as it grew. Now they are, you may say, natural leaders or the captains, right? Now, in terms of the organization as it grows and as they build, in your experience, because you worked a lot with a lot many CEOs, CXOs transforming, what's your experience? What's your take on entrepreneurs and captains of industry? How is coaching going to help transform themselves and their organization?
I think entrepreneurs are the best clients for a coach. I mean, it would be a joy to coach more and more entrepreneurs because they are the ones who really carry a vision. And bringing clarity to that, and bringing a sense of purpose to that, and bringing a direction to that, is a great joy for any coach. So I do believe that every human being has a next level of growth possible. So every entrepreneur, if this is your business, you can grow it bigger. If you have a team of 100 people, you can grow it bigger. The sky is the limit. You can hire more professionals. You can evolve your organization culture to be more result oriented, more professional in their way of looking at things. You can grow to networking a little better with other entrepreneurs or with linked industries. You can look at business negotiations and look at mergers and acquisitions. So everybody has a next level. And
Correct.
my biggest challenge is I always throw the question and say, what is your next level? And if everyone who's watching this program can ask themselves that question, what is your next level?
Wow.
I think we would have begun the coaching journey already. So entrepreneurs, uh, the ones that we have coached, and I can share with you a couple of case studies, the captains, I will say, the CEOs. I think the biggest beneficiaries were the CEOs whom we coached with their teams to help them navigate their team dynamics for the best outcomes. So, typically, in one case, I can talk to you about one entrepreneur, and this was in the B2B context. He had a chief marketing officer or a chief sales officer, right, mostly, who was driving sales. And it was a highly technical product which had to be customized to the client's need. And there was a technical services person who knew everything about the product and the technology. And of course, the sales guy was typical type A personality, very outgoing, very aggressive, and he'd go there, close the deal, negotiate hard, and bring in the orders. And the technical services guy was very introverted and looking within the organization, looking at the science and the technology and the research that, So there was also a personality difference, and there was a huge clash. The sales guy would go out there and close the sales deals, and the technical guy would say, "Hey, sorry, this is not possible to deliver so soon, and at this level or at this price you're talking about." So I know the CEO was extremely perturbed about the gap between these two. And I was coaching the entire team. I was coaching the entire team. And when this came up in the coaching sessions, we worked with special sessions with both these people to help resolve that particular impasse that had transpired. And there were a lot of process initiatives we took, like writing SOPs and mutual goals and things like that. But also at the same time, there was a lot of personality coming together. We got the technical guy to visit the customers. We got the marketing guys to come and see on the shop floor what was happening and what the processes were. So there was a huge effort over a period of a year to close the gap. So
Mm.
personality differences, though they remained, there was a good working relationship that got established. And the biggest beneficiary was the captain of the ship.
Wow.
He was the biggest beneficiary. So I think entrepreneurs and captains, CEOs, they benefit the most by understanding the team dynamics and getting the best out of that.
Wow. I think, just as a reflection, as organizations grow, the Indian economy has grown. And so medium-sized organizations also have grown to becoming large now. And those very same entrepreneurs and captains now have most of their DRs as very strong, professionally led, like a CFO and CXOs and CEOs. And so probably it is also an important time in the life of an entrepreneur to have you kind of looked at coaching to seeing as exactly what you said, what is the next, right? So how does he redefine himself or herself, not just in leading the organization, but how does that entire leading play out, especially now that you have a set of people who are driving the organization, because now you've reached another level of performance altogether. Wow,
Absolutely.
yeah, I think that's a wonderful message, because a lot of entrepreneurs are sitting on the fence on this one, and I hope that those who are listening to us realize that it is important to jump over the fence and actually, look at a coach to help. One another conversation that happens with a lot of CEOs and especially founders is that as they have grown, right, one of the things they keep saying and to the HR guy, right, is saying, tell me, how is it that I'm going to get the same amount of ownership, sense of achievement in the guys, especially my DRs and things like that. And so the HR guy then now is given that challenge, and that you'll do a performance evaluation, you do your performance improvement plans, and things like that. But still, many a times I've seen that the question persists. And so, in your experience, Anita, to get the spark, as they say, that's what the language, a lot of the CEOs and founders. So, does coaching kind of help in that area to build ownership, sense of achievement?
Coaching is not like a universal, like a co-vaccine or something like that that can solve the world's problems that we see now. But coaching can help the leader realize one thing, that if an employee is not engaged or doesn't have the sense of ownership and sense of achievement that he would love to see, then he needs to understand that it's something that he needs to do differently. I always say the leader lies within you.
Wow,
It doesn't lie out there in your employees.
correct.
The leader lies within you. In fact, that's the tagline that we have in our coaching program. The leader lies within you. So the first of all, we would love the CEO to understand that, and coaching can bring him to that realization that the issue of ownership and engagement is something that is anchored within him, and he needs to do something to change that. He cannot demand ownership, he cannot demand employee engagement. He has to do something about it, and he has to do something about changing himself. So, what is his purpose? How does he live his own purpose? What is
Hmm.
his vision? How does he create a community of vision? How do people buy into that vision that he's got? How do people buy into that strategy that he's got? How do people, it's got to be like a Pied Piper. How do people feel inspired with that vision that he's carrying? How do people feel that this is a great place to work and this is where I would love to contribute? And
Wow.
that lies in his actions and his character, in his being, in his roots. And you get to that roots and you help him clarify all that and work with that and evolve to the next level, and you'll find that ownership does happen. And One of the other things I think is the outcome of coaching is that CEOs also get to realize that they cannot have a universal demand from every human being in their organization. There is something called a bio individuality. Each one is individual. Some will be more committed, others will be less committed, and they need to accept some of that too.
Hmm.
So recognizing the individuality of their employees is and the uniqueness of their employees and the different shapes and forms of commitment and the different ways in which commitment is demonstrated, not necessarily the way he demands it. So helping them see all of that is definitely, it's possible in coaching. But again, coaching is not like a panacea for all evils. It gets you part of the way. uh, a coachee has to do all the work, the client has to do all the work, we merely facilitate. So if it succeeds, it's the client's success. If it fails, it's the client's failure. There's precious little I can do as a coach other than keep on challenging him and keep on inviting him to actually ensure that he walks the path.
Great. In fact, that's so very important, as you talked about, that we need to acknowledge that there are different levels of commitment and and also different ways in which people demonstrate ownership and sense of achievement. I think that's actually very fundamental, because many a times we forget that. We talk about individuality, but when it comes to these things, somehow in our mind we've drawn a line, right? And we say that this is the minimum, and everybody has to be the minimum. So yeah, so I think very, 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 very important. I going back to that tree, okay, that tree slide, I think very, very important. So you mentioned something about emotional quotient and EQ, and you talked about spiritual quotient. How is it that one can leverage that for success?
I shared with you the example of Mahatma Gandhi.
Yeah.
Let's just go back to his roots, when he was in South Africa and he got thrown off the train and he encountered apartheid everywhere. And, because he sat in the first class of compartment, he was thrown off and he burned his identity card. He was very angry young man. He was a very angry young man. And for that reason, he said, this is a country I can't live in. I'm going back to my home country, and that's India. He came here and he found similar discriminations happening, and the British were occupying the country at that time. And he would continue to remain angry. He continued to remain angry till the end. He was an angry young man, but angry old man. An angry young man turned into an angry old man, but the anger didn't go away. The Viceroy of India would come and say, I want to meet Gandhi ji. And he would say, you tell him I'm in the meditation session and I cannot meet him. Non-violent, non-cooperative movement. So we call this passive aggressive behavior. If you're a psychologist, you would know. But driving it was emotions, and it was executed in an intelligent way. Without emotions and without emotional intelligence, India would not have been free. So I always give the example of Gandhiji on how he worked in an emotionally intelligent manner, channelizing his emotions, transforming them into a positive action for growth. So emotional intelligence is vital because we all have emotions. And if someone says, hey, listen, I'm a very logical person, I don't have emotions, then we need to get that person to connect with their emotions. And there are ways we do that. There are lots of stuff we do to get people to connect with their emotions and understand what really they are passionate about. You can't have a vision or a sense of purpose and not have an emotion attached to that. And we look at how do we now take the energy from this. Emotion means something that moves you, something that gives you motion.
Correct.
Yeah. And we say, I'm feeling moved, means I'm feeling emotional. So, how do we take the reactivity out of that? And we add a sense of intelligence into that. Intelligence is what? Logic, rational reasoning. And then we use the transform emotion, the energy from that to channelize it into positive actions. So emotional intelligence very important, and I can do a separate session with Share Your HR on emotional intelligence any day.
Yes, of course. In fact, what we a lot of the work that we do is also creating employee experience. And one of the things that we're working on a hypothesis saying that can we actually create a set of emotions in employees, even if you take the early life, and if those emotions are created by design in the organization, will that actually lead to a more stickiness, more sense of belonging? And so I completely vibe with what you're saying in terms of
I'd love to know how those initiatives pan out, you know.
oh yes, yes, it's pretty interesting the way it's kind of, you
But
know.
one thing I can talk about is if you read a book by Professor Uday Parikh called Institution Building, Beyond Management, Institution Building. It's
Okay.
about building emotional institutions in the organization. How do we celebrate successes?
Celebrate
How
success.
do we, create? So this about building emotional wellness at the organizational level. So, so there's lots, but I would love to know how your initiatives pan out.
Thank you. Talking about that emotional wellness and things. So one of the things that when we talk to leaders or even CEOs, the camaraderie between leaders, or rather in the CXO team or into the leadership team, very essential for growth of an organization. So one is the individual preparing himself and learning how to have sense of purpose and driving, and then there's the camaraderie between. So in coaching, does coaching help in that area of building that camaraderie, especially at the leadership level? Because especially nowadays, in the current environment, everybody is looking up to the leader and saying that, how is that guy going to behave, and how is that going to be
So
those
yes,
guys
there is
behaving together
something we call,
is
sorry,
a
there is something, sorry, carry on.
I see. Go ahead.
So there is
Yes.
something that we call team coaching. And I have often, when we are coaching teams, so these are not like, a team is not, a group is not a team. Sometimes we coach groups and we call it group coaching. Sometimes we coach teams and we call it team coaching. So teams are people who are actually work together. So there are times when I've taken one CXO and his or her entire team for a team coaching session. So we call it team coaching, where we conduct sessions and we use a lot of tools like sociograms and EQ mapping exercises and lots of stuff that helps to build the team dynamic, helps to resolve conflicts, helps to create camaraderie, helps to create positive bonding. It's not like your team development workshops that you go into the mountains and rappel down a mountain. I've done hundreds of those, and everyone say, "Hey, we enjoyed the picnic." Okay, and the games, those outbound programs which we did, and they come back with some degree of camaraderie out of that, but undercurrents still remain. So when we go for this team coaching, we build the undercurrents at the roots level, at the grassroots level, and we call that intervention team tarang. So tarang is like a wave, and tarang is a vibe. So we call it a team tarang. But we normally wouldn't put people into a team tarang unless we've had 3 or 4 coaching sessions with them already, individual sessions, so that everything is primed up to go in for that team coaching. Otherwise, it will degenerate into one more team development program where a lot of things happened and we came back feeling happy and without having really changed. So we come back with a team charter. From the team coaching, we come back with a team charter, and then we do reviews on those charters, and to what extent the team, and then we keep monitoring that for some time. So it's
Okay.
possible to coaching.
Sorry. Now I think let's pick up some of the questions, Anita, that have come to us from some of the audience. And one of the questions Pratik has asked us is there a difference between business coaching and or life coaching? For especially for a CEO, or is it the same?
Business coaching and,
Life coach.
well, in a sense, there's no difference. It's a whole person thing, especially if you're a CEO. It's a leadership thing. In coaching, we always say there are 3 levels. One is the performance coaching, where we've got your targets for the year and they're challenging, and then you coach a person how they're going to work, meet those targets. Then there's developmental coaching, where there's certain skills and competencies that need to be developed, and you enable a person to do that. And then there is the leadership or the transformational coaching. So if you're getting to the transformational coaching, then you know, then things happen, changes happen. So so it is possible, definitely, and coaching anything is possible. But like I said, it's a two-way street. Does that answer the question?
Yes, I think it does. Pratik, if you want to unmute yourself and if you have anything further to have asked on this.
No, I mean, I resonate with what Dr. Amita is saying. And well, when you say about business coach or life coach, in a way, it is a same. But I think I like Raman's, addition to that as well, where he clearly says that when it comes to life, it is your body is your doctor actually, and it's a holistic in nature what a person does. And business coaching is just extension of that. As a follower, a manager, a person has to see within you. So, a life coach first as a body, as a person, what it is, follows with a kind of attributes of business coach.
Yeah, I'd like to share a little personal incident here. You know, last 2 years I've been through something called a diabetes reversal program. And as a result of that, I have kicked off medicines, I've lost weight, I've started exercising and working out. And it has inspired me to add to my work a health coaching aspect. Because I do believe that, you know, even whether you're CEO, whether you're doing leadership coaching, or whether you're doing, life coaching, if you do not look at the body and how you're, because the body is the manifestation of your mind, it's the manifestation of your soul, it's the manifestation of your heart. So heart, mind, body, heart and soul have to come together. And when we do coaching, even whether it's a leader, we do get into all these aspects. It's just that we talk about different contexts. You know, it's the same coaching, but in a work related coaching and a CEO's coaching, we would talk about, you know, more about work relationships and more about work team dynamics. In a life coaching situation, we talk more about your life situations, your personal challenges,
Right.
and issues that you may be facing. So so very shortly, once I complete my certification as a health coach in about 6 months time, I will also be offering health coaching. As I mean, I'll be offering the health perspective to the leadership coaching as well, and look at what are the primary areas where we need to look, how do we nourish ourselves, not just through food but also through relationships and spiritual practices.
Wow. Um, Anita, we have another question from GR Reddy, who's talking about coaching has to be very personal, right? So how does that actually happen on a large scale with a large number of people? Is it still effective? So I think that's one question that we have for us.
uh, can you repeat the question again, please?
Coaching normally would need to be very personal. So how does it actually happen when you're doing it on a large scale, large number of employees or people? Is it still doable? Is it still equally effective? Your take.
There's a limit to how much coaching you can do, one coach can do. Hmm. So, for example, right now I've got 15 ladies in one women leadership program that I'm coaching. There are 12 more people with disabilities whom we've just started their coaching programs, and there's one more working in an NGO which I'm doing pro bono. So there is, right now my plate is full, my appointment diary is full, and we do sessions every month. We have a package deal for organizations. We begin with the personality profiling, and there's a range of options there that we are certified to do: Hogan assessment, leadership circle, emotional mapping, EQ mapping, and so many, MBTI, FIRO-B, Belbin team role. I'm certified in all of those. So there is a lot of psychological profiling, personality profiling. Then we add, the first session is a discovery session where we discover and give feedback on whatever profiling results have come. And then the next session would be a more of a contracting session, and we involve the bosses or the other stakeholders in building the direction for the coaching. And then after that, there are 5 sessions which we move forward in each session. And these happen every month. So the interventions usually last for 6 to 8 months in any organization. And there's only so much that one coach can do.
Right.
However, if I'm a CHRO, I would try to identify coaches with similar, skill sets. So I'm Ericsson trained and I know my mindset. I know what I'm doing. Uh, if I was to partner, I would partner with others who are also Ericsson certified. I mean, I can partner with any other coach, but I can share business with any other coach. But there is, it makes sense to bring one kind of coaching approach in an organization. So I would assign more than one coach then. If I had 100 people to be coached, one person can't coach 100 people in 1 year. It's not
Sure.
possible.
Obviously. Anita, just related to Mr. Reddy's question, we received this one question before. So, for the HR guys, I mean, if just bringing it down, performance improvement, conflict management has been something that has always been there on the charts of an HR guy and a CXO. Now, all this while you had performance improvement plans, feedback, career development plans, etc. In your experience, do you think that coaching as a methodology to have improved performance or dealt with conflict management, whether it is self or team, plays a good role there?
Coaching can be part of the intervention.
Part of the intervention, okay.
Yeah, it has to be supported. Something like a performance, outcomes and goal setting and all has to be supported by appropriate HR processes. So one of the problems I find with the young generation CHROs that we see today, they believe a process is a solution. And if you put the right process in place, we'll get the desired outcomes. So we put everyone has a goal, and everyone has a smart goal or a stretch goal, and everyone has worked out the action steps, and everyone's the goals are cascaded, and they all meet up somewhere, and we'll achieve something. But it's just a process. It gets reduced to putting in data into your computer at the end of the day. It's not living. So to make the process live
Correct.
is a leadership thing, and coaching can help in bringing that alive.
Right.
So people live through their goals. They're not just like racehorses, you know.
Wow, that is actually, that one sentence of yours is so fundamental. You have to live through the goals.
You have to
Uh,
live through your goals.
in this whole race, we completely forget that element of living, and how important that is really. One last question that has come in before is, and I think this is coming out a lot from the post-pandemic element, where everybody's trying to prepare the workforce, right? So right now, most of us are all put out of the comfort zone. So there's the fear of the great unknown, and because of that, the possibility of lack of confidence in at one point in time would have been something that you would have relied upon in terms of your own capabilities. But today, there's that possibility of lack of confidence. So given this backdrop, Anita, especially for leadership, and do you think that coaching could actually be one of the very fundamental things that can be used to prepare that workforce or that leadership in the new normal?
Nobody has seen the future, and we don't know where this pandemic thing is going to end. We talk of a new normal, and we think of today as the new normal, but you know we don't know how it's going to pan out. Everyone's on New Year's Eve, everybody was wishing everybody, is hope, and we have a great year ahead, and we are definitely going to kill this pandemic and things. And then, one of my relatives, she's 90 plus years old and lives in Bangalore. And I called her up to wish her Happy New Year. And she says, Anita, all this stuff about hope and Happy New Year, don't think of it like that. Think of it as taking one day at a time and making it better. Because if we start hoping for all the pandemic to go away, we will not get there. And suppose we don't get there, then what happens to you? You'll feel shattered. So I thought that was such a wonderful piece of advice that came from her, that you take each day as it comes. And I think coaching can help bring that focus to the here and now and the day to day. and not necessarily paint rosy pictures. I think one of the pitfalls of coaching is that coaches love to paint rosy pictures of the future and leave the person feeling very good. And sometimes that happens with me too, I mean, you think that, I visualize the future. I've got this wonderful Eden garden laid out for me in the future, and I'm going to get there someday. But in reality, you have to come back to living, and you have to work each day at a time. So coaching can help bring that present here and now focus, you know.
Anita, we'll take one last question. I think from Sachin, is talking about most of us believe in transformational coaching, preparing for the 21st century leaders. So is it if transactional coaching should be limited to skill enhancement, or should it be taken to further addressing organizational broader areas of concern? So should be limited to transactional coaching, be limited to skill enhancement, or to addressing organizational HR concerns?
I think if you look at just transactional coaching, it can help beyond just skills.
Okay.
It can help in goal achievement. It can help in performance improvement. It can help in aligning, the efforts of people in the same direction. So coaching can achieve transactionally. It can achieve quite a bit also. It can go to other areas of concern as well. But it would mostly be, with relation to the alignment of people's efforts in achieving organizational goals. Just at that level, it would stay. That itself is a big outcome. That itself is every coaching doesn't have to be transformational and wow factor. So like for example, I live opposite Kharjam Khana, and you see that my house overlooks the pool of the Kharjam Khana. And there is a coach there. His name is Ducky Sir, and he coaches the kids every summer, except for the last summer, and he produces national champions every year.
Wow.
Every year, sub juniors, juniors, seniors, all categories, all. But this guy, he is like a transactional coach. He's
Wow.
never in the pool himself. First of all, he's always in his sneakers outside and fully clothed. So he doesn't wear, I don't know if he even possesses a swimming costume, but he's like very transactional. He's got a stopwatch, and he's timing, and he's looking, observing, correcting. And he's a coach, and he's motivating, inspiring as well. He's showing the future outcomes as well. So he's also a coach in his own way. And he's achieving good outcomes. He's not a trainer, he's a coach, mind you. I would not put him in a trainer category. So, because he's inspiring people at the same time. So he's working with the whole person, he's building their character, he's watching what they eat, and, everything. So yeah, so coaching can achieve, transactional coaching can achieve a lot of actions and a lot of outcomes. But at the personal level, people may still live with the same dissonances that they've been living with.
Wonderful. With your permission, Anita, if I could ask Madam Bindu to if she would like to have shared some one or two thoughts around leadership coaching and something there. Madam Bindu? Okay. Wow, I think thank you so much, Anita. It's been a wonderful kind of insight, and when you look at it, and I'm going back to that tree, right? I think you spoke. Yes, Madam Vidhu, you're there. Yes. You're on. You put yourself on mute, madam.
You're asking Professor Vidhu Mohan?
Yes, yes.
Ma'am, you have to unmute yourself. Yes.
Okay. If you can hear me, Anita, I would like to say something about you. Am I allowed to say that? When you came to me, you came from management. And you had your doubts about psychology. But the way you have traveled and the way you have weaved yourself into psychology, I'm really proud of you. And as a teacher, I feel very fulfilled that the tree that you have made, you have shown that the cognitive processes are there and they were being considered a lot by people, that intelligence is everything. But you have shown that emotion is the emotive self which ultimately works through you. So it is the heart which really dominates your head. And if you can manage your heart, like the example that you gave of Mahatma Gandhi, yes, I also feel the same way about that. That's the right thing. And in emotions also, all emotions are not negative. The positive emotion is emotion of love. And love can neutralize anger, love can neutralize hatred, love can neutralize so many things. And if there is really love that you are promoting through emotional intelligence, your ego, which is a very big thing, it can be submitted. And I'm so happy, Amrita. God bless you. You have really fulfilled the dream that I had about you. And you came to me, oh, I should say that management cannot function without psychology, and you have shown it by being a coach, mentor, everything, and above all, counseling. To be a coach, to be a mentor, you have to be a counselor, and a counselor has to know about himself or herself, go deep into yourself. And Anita, I'm very happy you've come away, and you have proved that body and mind, they interact with each other. If your mind is happy, your body is also happy, and you owe it to your body also to keep it healthy. So Pehla Sukh Nirogi Kaya. So you have looked into that also, and that has helped your mind to blossom into a beautiful garden that you are today. And I'm very proud. Wish you all the best. I'm so happy that things that I used to talk about management, I used to do for management, you've done it, you've shown it. Congratulations.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Professor. Thank you so much. Pratik, there was something you had on grow. Is there something you'd like to talk about?
Grow model.
Yes, I just wanted, a grow model is something where all people, like, most of the managers or CEOs and all, they kind of do that as a life. But is there any structured approach for the grow model of coaching which you would like to tell us more about it, Dr. Irfan?
Yeah, the grow model is the basic, and that was where coaching actually started.
Okay.
That was where coaching actually started, the grow model. And so a lot of the original Stephen Covey coaches and Franklin Templeton coaches, they all use the grow model and evolve from there. But nowadays there are so many technologies and so many models, and everyone has their own. And I have my tree. You've seen my tree model, or I've got to give it some name also. So I want to make it like a banyan tree. You can grow roots from the leaves. The roots can come down and hit the ground also. So you get more nourishment that way. But yes, grow model is a very core fundamental part of coaching. And but again, a lot of grow model tends to get very transactional because it results in goals and action steps, how to reach those goals.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thanks. Thanks.
True coaching brings insight and transformation. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens.
So with that, Anita, thank you wonderfully. I think from what you have shared with us today has been very insightful. Right from the whole element of the fact that coaching first is manage self, and then when you're able to manage yourself and all the aspects of self, is when you can actually start looking at how you can manage and transform the people around you and under you. And you also spoke about the emotion and the spiritual side, and I do recall hearing this is when the past doesn't exist, the future doesn't exist, and so many a times we're really enduring ourselves. And if we are able to just go back in our lives and realize that, as you very rightly pointed about the swimming coach, I remember having one. And as children, as we started growing and becoming who we were in the formative years of our lives, um, we we looked at coaches and we gained from their insights, we gained from whatever they were kind of guiding. And so guidance and being, having a good guide is so essential. And especially at these stages of our lives, whether it's the HR guys on this call or entrepreneurs or leaders, it is very, very important that we look at guides and look at coaches to have helped in bringing ourselves to light, really. And that's what I've learned from you today, Anita. How is it that one looks at insights into one's own self, to build awareness in one's own self, to look at the very purpose that many a times we've taken for granted to have defined, redefined, and not only defined and redefined, how is it that we are able to kind of transcend and translate that to others, whether it's in our own personal lives or whether it's in our professional lives. You talked about everything being forward looking, and I remember one wonderful speech at the graduation ceremony. It's all about no fall back, it's about falling forward, it's about moving forward. And uh, and and so therefore coaching is that help, is that guide to have taken us moving forward. So thank you so much, all of you, for joining us today. It's been a wonderful session. Thank you, Anita. Amazing insights, and I know that the kind of work that you've done and you continue to do has helped a lot of CEOs, CXOs, and organizations, a lot of women, to have brought about a lot more in themselves, many times to have realized a lot of things that we've forgotten about ourselves. And a lot of the work that you've done has helped us realize and put that to potential. So thank you so much. And I'm sure that a lot of your work, and we continue to do a lot of work together in developing organizations and things like that. So thank you so much, Anita, for being here. Thank you. It was a wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Uh,
Thanks
Ashish,
to so many of my colleagues who have joined. I can see a lot of faces, names
yeah,
over here, people whom I've known in the past, including G.R. Reddy and Aditi Sharma, and of course Professor Vidhu Mohan, definitely, and quite a few others also.
yeah,
Ashish, a lot of people I know.
there
Thank
are
you.
a lot of people who have joined us live on Facebook, and
Yeah.
so a shout out to them for joining us. So Ashish, over to you.
Thank you, Kevin. Anita, that was an amazing session. Uh, Extremely insightful, I must say. Quite a few things to learn. And thank you very much for this session. Kevin, thank you for this session. Participants, thank you very much for joining in. I hope there was learning for you as well. Please do leave your feedback on ashish@shareyourhr.com. Do visit us on www.shareyourhr.com and www.karmamgmt.com to have an insight into the organization. Thank you very much, participants. Have a great weekend. We catch up again next Friday, hopefully, for yet another session on something that's really interesting and exciting. Stay tuned for TGF sessions every week. Thank
Very
you.
good.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.